Arizona District. I'm Matt Dennis. I am now working at the district office, doing some advancements in technology, leadership development, and communication. So part of that, one of the pieces that I'm really excited about is doing some of these pastor interviews throughout the next few months. We're going to be just asking pastors in their local context to share, what God is doing, what this season maybe has brought as far as new things or new challenges and that we've all been going through. And then also just some unique perspectives on ministry maybe that they give. And so I'm excited today to start these with Kyle. He's been the pastor at Zoe now for about 14 years, right? Yep. The planting pastor there. He's also the chaplain for Peoria Fire. And so I'm excited for your, kind of dual perspective on those areas. But how did kind of all that initiate? How did you get started doing chaplaincy and planting church and, just jumping into all of that at one time?
Sure. Chaplaincy came about, I've been a chaplain a little longer than planting here, but chaplaincy came about because I felt like I needed to get back into the community. I think we've done a better job over the years, but back when I started chaplaincy about 17 years ago, we weren't very good, I don't think, about getting outside of church walls, at least I wasn't, and so I was looking for ways I could connect with the community. So I originally joined the crisis response team in Glendale, and from there a chaplaincy position opened in Peoria, and they knew I was an ordained minister, and so they asked me to interview. And so some of it stems out of 9/11 as well. That's kind of what maybe prompted, and now I realize how long ago that actually was, but crazy. That prompted getting back into the community kind of thing. So that's how I ended up in chaplaincy. And then church planting, I didn't want to plant a church. So, let me rephrase that. Yeah. It wasn't on my radar. And then I felt God prompting me that we as a collective denomination at large had moved from the inner cities to the suburbs, which was kind of contrary to what Brazil kind of started with, And so I just felt the prompting to come back to Old Town Peoria, and that's how we got there. It was just a total God thing, and yeah, I guess we'll talk about it a little bit.
Cool, yeah. As we, most people in ministry, they talk a lot about balance, right, between, being a pastor and doing other things or with your family and all those things. You're doing it kind of in double duty here. You're pastoring your local church. You're also shepherding these group of firemen and walking alongside them as a chaplain, and then you're still husband, and you're still father, and you're still son, and you're still all the things that we all do as just men and women of God. But how are you balancing that juggling act of all of those pieces, and what are some maybe of your self-care kind of things that we talk about now, or any of those kind of pieces that you use to balance that out?
Yeah, so when I was doing graduate work at Point Loma, I had an interview with part one of the classes was clergy self-care, and an interview with a therapist, psychologist, and he said to me in our interview, it was kind of like a pseudo counseling session. He said, you at the time I was also working as a fire dispatcher. He's like, you were a church planner, you're a fire chaplain, you're a fire dispatcher. He's like, and you tell me these things, and I feel like I should take you to get a mental health evaluation because your stress level. He said, I seriously, if you hadn't answered, we had done these tests, and if you hadn't answered in such a way that I think you have some resiliency built up, I would seriously take you to get a mental health evaluation for your own sake. And so that kind of was a prompt to me to say, I probably should do something about this balance thing that you're talking about and self-care. So I started seeing a therapist, so that was healthy. That kind of moved into, I'm very disciplined about my schedule, so that helps immensely. I think even if you're doing ministry and your family, you have to be very disciplined about your schedule. So, Friday mornings I'm writing my sermon, and that gives me leeway into Saturday if I need it. And Monday mornings I'm thinking about my sermon all week, right? So I'm disciplined about that. And then the other thing is I want to make sure I'm not just doing chaplaincy and church stuff. Yep. And family stuff is great too. But a couple of years ago, I intentionally went and found some friends who weren't Christians, didn't know me. I was just a random dude. And I wanted to share Christ with people, but also I wanted to be somewhere where nobody knew me. Like, I didn't have to be pastor.
Yes.
And so I've been friends with them for several years now, and over time it's developed, and they're, but it was probably a good 2 or 3 years before they knew even what I did. I just didn't share. So to me, I think that's healthy, to find a group of friends like that. I would say I'm too busy. I mean, I don't think that that's always super healthy, but I think you have to be disciplined in that. And then the other thing I do is I listened to Dr. Spate when he talked about Sabbath. So I'm pretty, almost always every week, I can't say always, but almost always every week I take a Sabbath time where I don't think about church, I don't think about chaplaincy, I just, I might work around the house or but I do something that I want to do. So.
I think for me, as I've been just journeying through this, this season of COVID, that's been the challenges. There's been a lot of right now issues. When it first started, it was I don't think I slept all of April, trying to figure out how to move our church fully online and to do some of the things that we're trying to do. And so, for you, maneuvering through that from both perspectives. So, I mean, COVID, hit not just your local church, but also chaplaincy and family and, how all of that looks. And so for you, what were some of the ways that you had to, maybe make some shifts, or what were some of the changes for you as far as ministry goes that you saw this past year kind of just force into, the norm or whatever you're doing?
As far as the local congregation, obviously we all had these concerns and we shut down, and so for me that was a big change. I'm not anti-technology, and I have some grasp of things, but for me, church requires almost the gathering of the body together, and so that was it. It actually, Matt, for me was more of a theological issue that I had to wrestle through. I don't care about the technology as much as the theology. So I had to wrestle with theology. How do you engage in Eucharist when you're not together? Can you do that? I mean, it was a big deal. For some people, it was like, and for them, great. But for me, it was a huge problem. So what we did is we gathered, I guess you would say virtually. What I did was we filmed the service because we didn't have a streaming at that moment. So we filmed the service each week, which was a lot of work. Yeah. And then we would post it on YouTube. And I tried to make it as interactive as possible. We didn't take Eucharist, but we did family communion. So anyway, there's no need to get into all the theological workings of that. But and then we just looked ahead to try to figure out how it could go. But I also knew that when we gathered back together, there were going to be people who didn't come. So we went streaming. I don't think we do a good job at it. Not the level of you guys, but yeah, because I'm not using it right to reach out to the whole world and create the massive congregation online. It's just for really, and for us, it's for the people that are part of our community who can't come or are afraid to come. So we did that, and when we gathered back together, we instituted face masks are required, and I know some people don't like that. That's okay. There's churches where you can go that don't require that. And we do social distancing, family group seating, so that's kept us pretty safe. So that's, I guess, technical stuff. As far as chaplaincy, it didn't change. I want to be careful wording this, but it wasn't an option. I mean, it just is. So put on a mask or put on eye shield, and life goes on. In that context, I didn't have the option to change much.
So looking forward, people are starting to get vaccines and they're feeling more comfortable and they're being more present and they're doing those things. So for you, maybe how are you still trying to care for those that aren't here? We talked about live streaming, but also for those that are coming, and some of the safety precautions and things. But for you, as a church looking forward, is there plan and vision for what's next as you're moving in maybe into safer times? It's still kind of that uneasiness, I think, for everybody, but it at least seems like the trajectory is, we're moving back in a positive direction. So for you, what are some things that you're looking forward to, or that you're trying to maybe drive forward in the near future?
Yeah, so one of the big things is we're big on neighborhood connection, right, with the apartments around us and those sorts of things, and that's virtually ground to a halt. So we're looking forward to that. We didn't have every kid has a part no practice Christmas play this year, and that's a huge thing, and so that was painful, I think, in the community. And so it's that outreach portion and, the balance of keeping people safe and also reaching into a world that's unsafe, quite frankly. And not to be flippant about that, but there just are risks. And I'm not asking people to take those risks per se, but yes, as we get safer, more vaccines, more people are comfortable, we're looking forward to that. And then service-wise, we're looking forward to the ability to take Eucharist and to have the greeting time and those sorts of things where we have contact with these people. We do Eucharist now, but the way we have to do it is separated. We deliver the elements to congregants, and it's and for some congregations that's how they do it anyway. But for us, that's a huge deal. I've had people feedback like, when can we go back to how we did it? And then I think one good thing that's come out of this is, I guess I don't want to plug anything, but Zoom or meetings or however you do it, that's enabled us to do midweek stuff that normally we couldn't do because people didn't want to come midweek. They have too much on their plate. They got work. They got to get kids ready for school. Now with that online meeting, we were able to have Bible study and those sorts of things that normally we struggled to get people to participate in. So that's been a great thing that's come out, and that'll continue for sure. And streaming will continue. It's just it's good, I think. There will be people who get the flu or they're sick, and it'll give them an opportunity to engage. So,
yeah, we've seen a big shift in just the hunger for community, right? Like that's what I've noticed with even our outreach things that we've tried to do, or with new people that come. It's like they could care less about most of what's happening. They just want to be around people of some kind. But it's always the awkward, like, do I shake your hand? Do I, elbow? Like, what do we do? But it's like they're just hungry for, like, I just want to be around people. But I think you're right with Zoom and some of those things. I don't think they're going to go away. They're going to be things that we continue to engage and use. For me, it's been awesome in the district job. I can troubleshoot technology calls in Flagstaff or Tucson from here, and I don't have to drive 4 hours or 3 hours to go do those things. But it's just a different feel for everybody now. Everybody's learning those pieces of technology and using them in different ways. And I think one of those things for us in the church is we're finding now that we can do ministry, not to the full extent that we want to, but we can actually do ministry through social media, right? Like, it's not just like here's a post of what we do so that you can see us. Now it's more of a, how can we engage you, in this online and do these things. And so it's been I think that's one cool shift that I've seen a lot of churches make is, no, we actually want to do ministry now here. We're assigning pastors to be online with you. We're assigning people to do these other things here. And so that's been a different shift for sure. And so for you, as you're balancing all of that, what's been a way for you as chaplain and as pastor where you've maybe been able to bridge those two jobs together? Are there any overlaps in those for you, or you try to kind of keep them separated?
They're separate. When I became a chaplain, I thought, oh, this will be easy. I'll just be a pastor out there. That's not how it works. Right. And so for chaplaincy becomes a ministry of presence and also a ministry of inconvenience. And so but it's different. And so I've seen chaplains come and go, like police chaplains in other cities, fire chaplains, because they come thinking, oh, this would be a good way to get people to come to my church, or I can tell them about, and that just doesn't work that way. And so I don't keep them completely distinct. Like, people in the congregation know I'm a fire chaplain, and the 200 firefighters know I pastor a church. And there's not a ton of overlap in that.
What I love about, we're on the district together, and I think, there's strength in that unity that we get to be a part of, that I don't think we always lean into very well as a district. Like, there's you look around here and there's probably 5 Nazarene churches within, a 20-mile radius of you. And so we look at that, and I think sometimes we allow competition to get in the way of that. But I know for you right now, you're partnering with another church on our district, and kind of I want to celebrate that a little bit and hear, for you guys, how that's been, that partnership has been, working together. And, for you, like, what was that transition like, allowing them to use your space and sharing the space, and just enabling another congregation to meet here for you?
Sure. So I guess we can say Union meets here on Sundays as well, and they were just at a place where they needed a change, I think, and of course Pastor Brian can talk to all that, but for us, I don't view our space as our space. I'm happy to share it as need be. I'm not just, give everybody a key or something, but but it's not really. It's just, to me, I like to think of it as it's on loan. God loans us the space and we lease it, so it's on loan anyway. But they need a space to meet, and they meet in the afternoon. So, what does it matter? We don't meet on Sunday afternoon. I mean, occasionally we have, like I said, the Christmas play or something, but otherwise it doesn't affect us. And so I told him, I said, well, it seems silly that you would pay money to rent a space when this space is available during that time. So we talked for a while, and so we agreed to share a space. I went to my leadership team and said, hey, what do you guys think of this? And we're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so we started a space. Well, starting in a couple weeks, one of the things we talked about was they meet in the afternoon, and I think they took a real hit when they went to afternoon, and that's for them to work out. But I said, would you like to meet back in the mornings again? They're like, well, you meet in mornings. I said, well, we meet at 10:20. You used to meet at 9 o'clock, and your service is an hour. I think there's enough transition time. So we changed our service time a couple weeks ago to 10:30. Which I got zero complaints about.
Yeah, no complaint.
Like, great. Yeah,
if you went to 10, it would have been a bigger deal.
Right, definitely. So they said, yeah, 10:30. So we switched so that they can start and go back to 9. And to me, that's just something you do, if it works. I'm not saying, if we met at 10, it would be more problematic. But if we can make it work, why not? And why not work together? And, I think Union's trying to do some unique things, and so why not share space? And why, if we already pay for this space, why burden somebody else with a financial issue? So, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a big deal, but it didn't seem like a big deal to us. It's just like, yeah.
That's what I think we want to get to, though, as a district. That we. When a church is struggling through something or is working through something, can we share those things and come alongside and be support, in that? I think that's the place that we want to get to, and I think we've got, you're the West Valley zone leader still too, or ministry area now is what it's called, but you get to lead that zone and connect those pastors together, and I think more often if we knew, some of the struggles of a church, or we knew some of the ways that they were hurting for whatever it is, that's the beauty of a district, right? That we get to come alongside as each other and support each other and love on each other. So I love that you're doing that, and that you're, just welcoming them into this space. And I think for a lot of us to remember, that's a good mindset for us to have, that our space isn't really our space. We're loading it, and we're going to use it for whatever God places. But
historically, not to bore your viewers, but historically, and in high church traditions, the local church is what we call a district, or they would call a diocese, right? But whatever. But that's the local church, is that level, where that leader, in their case a bishop, our case a district superintendent, that leader is the local pastor, and the congregations are just satellites of that, right? So that's my mindset, is like, yeah, I'm just a satellite of the district. And so, okay, Union needs to use space. Cool. Okay, Sun City needs to borrow a copy machine. Cool. Like, to me, it's just all one big thing. And I try to do that. You know how we are, though. Our mindset is.
And you're balancing and you're juggling things, and you're trying to stay afloat here, and so the temptation is easily just to get overwhelmed with what we're doing in our own context, to even think about looking at another context. But I think to get to the point where we see those needs too, and get to just walk alongside, I think God blesses that and moves in some powerful ways when we partner together. Right, we're all stronger when we're doing ministry together, rather than all of these separated satellite kind of things. But when we can be unified, I think it's a beautiful thing. So, well, thanks for taking some time this morning to talk through some stuff.
I'm humbled that you asked.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I hope it. I hope
we'll do some more soon.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks.